my mom had an injury not that long ago, right? And she fell at work and they treated her for the knee, for the wrist, the elbow. Like it was a true fall. But she forgot to mention, hey, I happened to slam my face on the floor as well and broke my tooth. And she was just too embarrassed to say it. So guess what happened? Started having massive pain in her tooth, but since she never said anything in regards to it, they didn't send her to the dentist and it just became this whole thing. So I get what you're saying. Yes, include each and every body part, even if it's minimal, because it might come up that it gets worse and then you're going to be screwed because you didn't say anything in the first. So, yes, that's one positive way to win your case successfully. Speak up, don't be afraid. Thank you, Bilal, for joining us in another episode of Work Comp Talk. Today's topic is top 5 positive ways to win your case. Now, this episode, Bilal, comes because a few years ago, maybe even last year, 2 years ago, you and I recorded the top 5 mistakes that can ruin your case. And that ended up being a really great episode. A lot of injured workers dived into it. It's probably one of our most watched videos on YouTube as well. Why not put a twist to this and talk about the positive ways to continue to win your cases? I'm so glad you brought this up and switched it on us because we were literally just going to keep it being negative. But you're like, no, let's make it positive. Earlier, before we were prepping for this episode, Bilal, you were telling me about 2 different cases, one being the Kite case, which was a case that was done a long time ago and potentially started something different for workers' comp. And then came the Vigil case, which was from 2024, that kind of mirrored the Kite case and the things that they were fighting, but made it in such a clearer way that it has positively changed some of the ways that the combined values chart calculator, which is another thing you have to explain to us because I have no idea what that is. It almost positively changed the way the workers' comp system calculates. So please explain the Kite, the Vigil case, and this calculator because it makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah. So the Kite case was a case that basically said, look, when we are adding together the permanent pair ratings for body parts, instead of using this combined values chart in workers' comp, which is a weird way of adding things together, but giving you less value, we should just be using simple addition. So
now, this is for people who have multiple body parts and injuries, right?
Correct. So you have, let's say you have a wrist injury and a knee injury or a bilateral hip injury, or you have a spine and an ankle injury. Anytime you have more than one body part or system. So for example, you have a hernia and you also have a slip disc in your neck, or you have a torn rotator cuff and I don't know, you have GERD, for example, from medications you're taking,
Yeah.
or you suffered a traumatic brain injury and you also have PTSD or a traumatic brain injury and you also have a spine injury. So when we're thinking about body parts, also mean body systems as well, cardiovascular
Of
systems,
course.
psych, neuro, all that stuff. When you have someone who has a disability rating for one body part and then they have another body part with a disability rating and it's the same injury, the normal way of calculating the total disability for the injury for all the body parts would be to use this combined values chart, which the higher the rating you go, the less and less value you get. It's basically more and more difficult to continue to get a higher rating because the way the numbers are added together. So normally you would think 10 plus 10 equals 20. But when we look at this combined values chart, it's really 10 plus 10 equals 18. And the higher you go, the more this chart becomes difficult. At the top end of the chart, let's say you have 90% disability for one injury and you have 40% for another body part on that same injury. That 90 plus 40 will equal 99. It won't equal 100.
Gosh, why do they complicate life? It's already hard enough.
But the higher the rating, the more your case is worth. And at 100% disability, the value of your case is basically exponential over 99. And so this combined values chart really restricts how much injured workers can collect by really depriving them of the full value of the case. Kite, the case originally basically said, look, when you have a condition where there's a synergy between these body parts, we should be adding them together using simple addition rather than using this combined values chart. So 10 plus 10 actually equals 20, 50 plus 50 actually equals 100, not 86. And in the Kite case, there was an injury with the person had bilateral hip injuries. So of course, one hip is going to affect the other hip, and combine having both hip injuries makes someone way worse off than they would be otherwise. So there was a synergy there. Now, Vigil basically came along. Vigil was a newer case that clarified a lot of things for injured workers and made it really easy for injured workers to get doctors to say that simple addition should be used in place of this combined values chart. And basically, Vigil came out and said, look, you can use the formula under Kite, which is, say, if there's this synergy that basically makes this person so messed up, or they're just not overlapping, such that this person's either worse off because they have two separate disabilities, or they're worse off because they have disabilities with a synergy and overlap into them. And so it created a really clear path for injured workers to be able to just add the impairments together rather than using the combined values chart, which obviously completely changes the value of their case, sometimes for a lot of money. So it was a great case. In addition to Kite, they gave injured workers a clear path forward with a lot of doctors.
Well, talk about a positive way to win a case. Thank God for the Vigil case. Otherwise, we'd be stuck with that dumb calculator that does the math is not mathing for whatever reason. I think that's where the true term of math is not mathing came from. 10 plus 10 does not equal 18, but hey, it's workers' comp and they love to complicate things. Okay, cool. So that's one positive way. Makes total sense. And I love that they changed this. Step number 2, you mentioned ensuring each and every body part is included. Can you dive deeper into this positive step?
Yeah, a lot of times people focus on one injury to one body part. They ignore the fact that there may be other body parts involved. So they really only pursue medical treatment for one main thing that's bothering them the most. Other times they report an injury. And from the time that they report the injury, there's no follow up, either by the doctors or the insurance adjusters, to make sure that the body parts initially reported at the time of injury continue to receive treatment. A lot of times we get clients who come to us and they say, look, when I fell, I injured my back, my knee, and my hip. I'm only getting care for my back. And it's 6 months after the injury happened. And now they say, I want the doctor to start treating my back. And so we'll try and get the case accepted for the other body parts. But the other doctors who evaluate the case are saying, look, this person has treatment for their back, but they say they were injured and then they never got treatment for their knee and their hip or whatever other body parts are involved. We don't think this is related to the case, because if this person was injured, initially there would be treatment for these body parts, and there's not been for 6 months. And so really, I don't know if you've heard the old adage, it's going to date me a little bit, but squeaky wheel gets the grease. More modified.
You're old.
Squeaky wheel gets the WD-40. I don't know, any whatever way you want to say it. But the idea is, like, you got to speak up for yourself, and you got to make it part of the record to establish that you injured these body parts, and don't let the doctors tell you, oh, I'm not allowed to treat those body parts because they weren't part of the case. You got to be on your adjuster. You got to make sure the doctors are authorized to address every body part that you've alleged is injured. You got to make sure when you go to a qualified medical evaluator that they don't tell you that they can't see and evaluate you for certain body parts. They have to address every single allegation you make. If you say your back hurts, they have to evaluate it. If you say your knee hurts, they have to evaluate it. They may tell you that they don't think it's work related, but they have to evaluate it. So it's holding the doctors accountable. It's holding the adjusters accountable to make sure your body parts are well documented when you're actually filing your workers' comp case, and pursuing care as well. So yeah, really make sure everything's in there.
Quick story. My mom had an injury not that long ago, right? And she fell at work, and they treated her for the knee, for the wrist, the elbow. Like, it was a true fall. But she forgot to mention, hey, I happened to slam my face on the floor as well and broke my tooth. And she was just too embarrassed to say it. So guess what happened? Started having massive pain in her tooth. But since she never said anything in regards to it, they didn't send her to the dentist. And it just became this whole thing. So I get what you're saying. Yes, include each and every body part, even if it's minimal, because it might come up that it gets worse and then you're going to be screwed because you didn't say anything in the first. So, yes, that's one positive way to win your case successfully. Speak up, don't be afraid. You had also mentioned working or choosing the right doctor. Can you explain this positive way?
Sure. Not all doctors are injured worker oriented. There's some
Mm.
doctors that are more so favoring the insurance companies. There's doctors that maybe just don't care all that much about their patients. They look at it like a job and they treat it like it's a job and that's it. They're there 9 to 5, whatever the case may be. There's doctors that are extremely passionate about practicing medicine. There's doctors that are also equally as passionate about giving patient care and helping people to the extent humanly possible and everything in between. And
Mhm.
it's understanding which medical practices and which doctors are more going to be on your side
Right.
versus the insurance company. There's also going to be just an understanding of even down to a doctor's bedside manner. There's great doctors who don't have a great bedside manner. There's doctors
Yeah.
that have both. There's doctors that have none. And finding a doctor that's also going to be a really good personality fit for you, help you accomplish your goals of rehabilitating from your injury and giving you the confidence and creating relationships such that you trust in them. And there's a great opportunity for you to work with them to get better versus another doctor, and really understanding how you get to change your doctor, when you get to change your doctor, how often, which kind of doctors you get to see and when, whether you can seek second opinions or not, things like that go into a workers' comp case that can be hugely impactful for someone. Half the battle in recovering from an injury is not just the medical care, it's the relationship with the physician and the trust that's created that really goes a long way to help you through that process. And so, really, it's understanding who the doctors are, which ones are good, which ones are bad, and how to get with the good ones and how to avoid the bad ones.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there isn't a Yelp for doctors, so that's harder said than done. But I love how you said reaching out and, or I guess, really creating this match. If you don't feel the doctor is right, something's off, that should automatically tell you you really don't want to go through this entire case with someone you're not really even getting along with. Because it happens. There's doctors that are just have no bedside manners, like you mentioned. How about when the doctors are new to the workers' comp system or they don't understand the workers' comp system? So that can put a really huge damper in someone's case.
Yeah, it's a weird crossover because we get a lot of the, oh, my lawyer told me to talk to my doctor. And then, oh, my doctor told me to talk to my lawyer. And there's no right answer. And I think in a perfect world, the doctor and the lawyer are the ones that are talking and then talking to the patient and making sure that they're delivering a uniform message about expectations and what's possible in their case. I think, in a weird way, I've seen a lot of doctors that are new to workers' compensation, new-ish at least, who are great doctors. And I think workers' comp ruins them a little bit because they come in with this expectation and this hope that they're going to be able to create good patient outcomes and deliver the care that they want to and need to improve a person's quality of life. And they just get absolutely crushed by the insurance company, not authorizing things, not doing it at least on time, not responding to the request for authorization, failing to pay their bills. So I think workers' compensation can create huge red tape for doctors who come in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to help injured workers. There's some doctors, though, that they don't let that defeat them. And I think the more experience they get in the system, they know how to fight and get through that red tape as much as they can, at least with the tools afforded to them.
Yeah.
For newer doctors that don't understand the system, at least as a lawyer, I like to create dialogue. I like to help ensure that the injured worker is getting a complete picture from both sides. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I can't speak to medical terms or treatment that's provided. Likewise, I don't think a lot of the doctors can necessarily speak to the legal components of a case. And so, to some extent, the lawyer and the doctor have to work together to ensure that the patient's getting the best care possible.
Yeah. I'm glad we brought this one up. So that was three positive ways to win your case successfully. Four, you mentioned fighting denials. Go into that positive note of you want to win your case in a positive way, fight your denials. Don't just leave them as is.
I'll start with a bad thing. I think if you're an injured worker listening or you're someone who's never been in workers' comp before, work comp treatment is, I would say, more frequently denied than it is authorized. At least that's the perception I feel, having done this for a very long time. I see denial after denial come through for treatment, even for the smallest things, over the counter medications or things like gel for pain, basic stuff gets denied all the time. And it leaves injured workers really frustrated. And more than anything else, they feel defeated. The most common complaint I hear from clients, they say, why do I even bother going to this doctor? I drive 30 minutes each way. I sit in traffic. I sit in the waiting room for 30 minutes. They tell me this is what's going on. This is what I want to do for you. And then nothing ever happens because the insurance company just denies everything. So why should I even bother? And it's easy to feel defeated. I think after having done this for a very long time, sometimes I feel defeated. What's the point?
Yeah.
But there are ways to combat denials. And I'd say don't let those denials get you down. Don't let those denials make you feel like less of a person or that your case is worthless. You have to continue to fight for everything you deserve. And sometimes that means exercising some patience, and when denied, try and try again. There's tools we have in workers' compensation like IMR, or even just ensuring that the utilization review denials are actually legally appropriate. There's been some cases that basically say IMR, independent medical review, is your only recourse for a denied treatment, unless there's some procedural issue with the utilization review, which sometimes are very easy to spot. Utilization review has tight deadlines. There's also requirements that the utilization review decisions are actually served correctly. So if these conditions aren't met, you can actually invalidate denials. Not only that, when you're filing an IMR application, you get a second chance at actually overturning a denial. So don't always let utilization review decide things for you. To the
Yeah.
extent you have an IMR decision that's against you and a utilization review decision that's against you, normally treatment denials stand for 12 months unless there's a change in circumstance too. So if there's a change in circumstance, you can always try and work with your doctor to overturn a denial by requesting again and actually accomplishing the thing that was a basis for the denial in the first place. So
Yeah.
a lot of tools available to you. Not let denials get you down and try and fight to get whatever treatment it is that's being requested.
That's a good one. I agree. Don't take no for an answer. If one door closes, there's three more doors that are going to open up. Okay, so that was number four on the top 5 positive ways to win your case. And last but not least, number 5, we have it as understanding your rights. It sounds easy, but can you break this down for someone who's new to the workers' comp system? It's not every day we wake up and, like, you know what, let me just go through the workers' comp system and try to figure out how to defend myself, because who knows, maybe in the future I'm going to get injured. Said no one ever, literally. So, understanding your rights, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, you touched on it. No one cares about workers' comp till they're in it. It's not something that you think about ahead of time. And unfortunately, it's a very convoluted system. And oftentimes the deadlines that pop up, the things you're going through are really time sensitive. The choices you have to make, the things you have to do, you're not afforded a ton of opportunity to ensure you're on the right track. And so, even if you also think you're on the right track, you may not necessarily understand everything that's out there that's available to you. And you may think everything's going well, but in reality, maybe you're not even getting half of what you're entitled to.
Yeah.
Understanding, how to calculate your temporary disability rate, how treatment authorization works, your rights to second and a third opinions, your ability to add body parts to a claim or see more than one QME, understanding how ratings work and ensure that you're valuing your case correctly and whether or not future medical care is there, work restrictions are being accommodated, what happens if your work restrictions aren't accommodated and the benefits you get from that. So there's a number of different issues that pop up at various points throughout a workers' compensation case, and you have to know what's going on. You
Yeah.
really do. And to the extent you put time into trying to understand those things, the better off you'll be. I don't think anyone can certainly learn it from start to finish 100% on their own while they're going through a case and really maximize the value of their case. Obviously, that's what lawyers are for. We've been doing this a long time. It's why there's
Mhm.
a state bar legal specialization in workers' compensation, because it is a complex system that does require a lot of knowledge. So, to the extent possible, if you are going through it on your own, obviously you want to do the best you can to learn it and understand what you're entitled to so that you're getting everything you deserve.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important part that you touched on, which is, a lot of people, there's options. And when you automatically go to a doctor and you're not new to the system, you're going to trust the system because you're going to be like, why would they want to screw me over? This system is meant to protect me and to help me. but then you face it and you're dealing with it and you realize you bump into these doctors that are not great, or you bump into these denials that are so stupid, like you mentioned earlier, not even trying to give you a gel for your pain and stuff like that. Like it just becomes so blurred in the lines that are set for workers' comp that you don't even know what to do, or what are you even entitled to at this point, because you're just going with the flow, but you don't even know the flow's route. So how do you even know that they're playing game on you? Like it's a difficult thing, and I do agree. Understanding your rights, or at least getting an idea, could definitely set you on a path where you're going to catch some of these things of, hey, this Bilal said this is one of my top 5 positive ways, so let me pick on this right quick. So thank you for sharing these. I really do think workers' comp is not easy. And there are cases where you just go through the system because they're minor injuries. You don't really have a lot of hiccups. You get a good doctor, you get a good claim adjuster, and the process is smooth. But then you get things where it's like, shit just gets complicated. I don't even know how to explain it. My dad, so quick, another story, quick. He got injured at work many years ago. And this is probably one of the first times I even got introduced into workers' comp. And everything went smooth. Honestly, there was a little bit of hiccups here and there. Of course, not everything's perfect. It wasn't until 15 years later that I realized they didn't even offer him any type of settlement or money or permanent disability because he settled via stipulated award, meaning you keep going to the doctor until you're like good. But right after his injury, the doctors, everything stopped and his injury got worse and everything stopped and then it healed, but it healed horribly. He had no idea that he had other types of rights. Had he had known, he probably would have kept his finger on, hey, this doctor's not trying to give me an appointment anymore, or they're denying this appointment now. Had he had known, his injury wouldn't be as bad as it is now, which is now permanent. There's nothing we can do about it. So that just sucks. It just sucks all around. And that's just one person. Imagine how many people does this not happen to. I want to thank you for your time. The top 5 positive ways to win your case. If you want to have more insights and if you have specific related questions to your case, they can reach you guys at pacificworkers.com. You can also chat, text, email. Gosh, you guys, the technology you guys have at Pacific Workers is, at this point, if you want a telegram, we probably could make it happen too. But
Carrier pigeon.
a pigeon that just comes and gives you the message. Yeah. Yeah, no, there's no excuse why you should not get in contact with someone and at least go through the first consultation. Definitely look into the resource links we're going to drop down below on the descriptions. If you have questions that you want us to answer, Bilal loves diving into these comments and also answering those. So make sure you drop those questions, subscribe, hit the bell notification. And if you are getting any type of information, give it a thumbs up. That way we know we're doing a good job with the podcast. So is there anything else you want to share? Do you want to add an extra 6th one, an extra 6th step? I'm just kidding, Bilal. Is there
I mean,
anything
you know,
you
I
did not?
could, but
I'm sure you could.
yeah.
But we want to keep this one short. So anything else you need to say before we say goodbye?
No, just don't wait. Make sure you prioritize yourself and your health and welfare. That's all. Make sure you don't sit on this information and do your own research and try and figure things out as much as possible. It's only for your benefit.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for your time, Bilal. We're going to catch you guys on the next episode of Work Comp Talk.